January 28th, 2020 meeting, Parks and Recreation Commission call to order. Start with the Pledge of Allegiance.
I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
Roll call.
Chairman Bennett,
Here.
Vice Chair Windley,
Here.
Commissioner Avila,
Here.
Commissioner Plamondon,
Present.
and Commissioner Traxler is absent with notice.
Okay, approval of agenda as is. Excuse me.
I'll move to approve.
Are we removing Dan off of this?
I think so.
Okay,
He's usually here early.
so to strike 2, or
Oh, yeah.
is there someone to speak for him, or does he have a plan? Okay, all right.
I'm sure he's got a plan.
So does anyone move to approve with presenting batting cages removed?
Yeah. I'll move to approve, but number 2 omitted.
And approve the agenda as is?
Yes.
Anyone second?
I second.
Okay. Public comment? Ms. Lowe.
Good evening, Plant Parks Commission. Hi, John, everybody. When I've been on the commission in the past, this is a little more informal than what council is, and we actually share conversation. So is that okay if we do that now? It's not just a case of me wanting to make a public comment, but I do want to bring something back up to the front of your brains, and that is getting a park built over on West Marlette there by the junior high. As you all know, there was a fundraiser held at the Big Red Barn to raise money for the depot. But part of that plan was the depot park. As we know, there's no neighborhood park over there. And so I waited some time just to see if anything happened. It didn't, so I came in and talked to John. This is 18 months or so ago. I was told there was a certain amount of money in parks mitigation funds. And I said, that's great. And I walked off and I didn't do too much more, waited it some time again. But, increasingly, what really got me going was when I was at a meeting, and I don't know if it was you guys' or council, but I think it was council, when suddenly there's all this money for basketball and tennis courts, and there's just no mention, there's never been any mention, never ever, on any commission or council about that park over at Marlette. Now, I do realize I don't always retain all the details. I am reminded that there is a nexus study in play. So I guess at this point, and it didn't need a nexus study for the basketball tennis court, is that right? Because it's already part of that.
They were already.
That was already
Okay.
part of that, but that
And so-
money comes from a different fund.
Well, I get that. I don't, that part, yeah, I'm not arguing with the money about it, but the reason you can go forward with that is because it's already been talked in the original Nexus plan.
Correct.
That's why we can use certain funds for it.
Right.
Yeah.
Okay, and just again, so I'm clear, so John, when we updated Grover and Oak Ridge,
We changed.
that was because you were able to find money in that Nexus plan and just take it out of
We-
this thing that we didn't need and put it where we did.
Because we weren't constructing a new park, we were adding amenities to an existing park. When you add a new park, you're going to need the nexus study to cover all the details.
So my question becomes, because that seems to be the big sticking point. Now, y'all should know I have been and talked to John, and by the way, I would also like y'all to know that in my desire to be a driver behind this, because if nobody drives, nothing happens. You wanted Chairman Bennett basketball courts and tennis courts, and you guys did find that other citizens want them too. So suddenly that's become a focus. I don't know, maybe nobody over in the Marlette area cares about a park. I don't know, maybe you all do. Maybe I'm fighting a stupid battle to get that done. And if I am I got other things I can be doing for certain. But if nobody drives it, nothing's going to happen. So I'm just here letting you know that I'm trying to drive this thing. But what I've never got clear about is how can we make the nexus study so that that park can get built? And that's kind of an aside, but when I did talk to John, he did say we do have some mitigation money from the houses that have been built in that area to do a couple of little chores that need to happen beforehand, which is fence off the depot so that we can get to work, however, whether it's volunteers or hire somebody to, start getting the land ready to do that, to fix the fence, and then to have a landscape architect draw. Like, we need a starting point on a plan.
Yeah.
Now, my plan for that is what I brought to the commission a couple of years ago, that park in Tucson, because it's efficient with water, it's got fast-growing trees, it would be pretty easy and low cost to put in there. It's not the only idea, it's just I thought it'd be a good starting point. But I'm just trying to find out what's the next step that we can take to move this forward. And I have talked to a fencer, and I have talked to our friend in prison. All of a sudden his name is escaping me. Remember I called and asked you for his number. He used to be on the Parks Commission. Pardon? No. He does the grounds at Mule Creek. Jody Maida, yeah. And he said he's willing to help out any way that he can. He likes parks, and he would like to see a park go in there too. So that's my question, John, is what can we do to get the Nexus study to release the money to be able to do that?
A new park isn't in this Nexus study in terms of there's the problem. We're still working on developing a new Nexus study that will include additional parks. Where we're going right now is because of the state and their proposition, either 68 or 69, has a per capita grant program. Right,
you shared that with me. Mm-hmm.
That was supposed to be moving forward back in October. Mm-hmm. We're still waiting.
I have spoken to them, by the way, but I didn't spoke to the lady that's actually in charge of the per capita. She wasn't there that day. I spoke to another lady at length. I did put in a call to Lydia Willette there to, find out about when it's open. One question that they asked me is, have we received a questionnaire? And if so, has it been returned?
Yes, that was returned months ago.
Okay, so that has been done.
Yes. Because I double checked that too, because it was like I'm not hearing anything, and the person that I contact, I sent it to him and go, yeah, we have your questionnaire.
Okay, that's great. Okay, so I'm sorry, back to your answer about how do we, when, is there a timeline on that Nexus study or?
Right now I'm still going through fire department stuff, so no, I don't have a time frame for you.
This year, next year?
Yeah, we want to get it done this year.
Okay, because I'm going to hold you to that as best as I can.
See, and I thought we would be closer to like May or June. That's what originally when we were talking about it, that
right.
We would be around that time. Because we talked if we wanted monies for something before budget, but right. That's off topic, sorry.
So as much as anything, I would just like to ask y'all to, again, maybe there's information I don't have. Perhaps I know that you hold neighborhood, come to meeting and see what people want. Do the people over there, would they like to have a park? I mean, does this matter?
Yeah, it's not a forgotten thing. I think it's just that as the city, they can't fund anything there yet because none of the funds are releasable. Because that's right. There are not enough to complete it.
Well, I get that.
Yeah. So,
but it's hard to think that there's hundreds of thousands of dollars in accounts that could potentially be used. Now, I've learned and I've shared with John that, and when I made my question to Diane about I wasn't talking. Right. That was just curiosity about it. Is there any kind of a plan? Because I wondered about the Castle Oaks, Riverland mitigation funds and the wildfire mitigation funds. I mean, what's going to ultimately maybe happen with those? So I know we're limited to kind of the houses in that area generally, but perhaps other money can be moved around through a Nexus fund to get that park built.
You don't have a park listed. If you're Nexus,
once you have the Nexus, can money then be allocated to build it out, done, finished?
There's a way to do. You're not going to get it all, but there's a way to do that. But like I said, in terms of your Nexus study, when it was done in 2005, it did not mention anything about additional parks. there's the hangup.
But you're hopeful that within this calendar year, that there will be
Yes.
a new Nexus plan, and it will include,
Yeah, and we've
The
done
Marlette
a lot
area
of work on the commission to kind of say things, where are we going to go with this? Where are we going to be in how many years, and what are we looking for, so that in 2025
And-
we're not looking back
And again,
saying,
this should, in terms of the detailed discussion, this should really be an agendized item.
yeah.
Yes.
sure. But in the past, we've always just had
Well,
just casual conversations, so I
But
get that.
we
But
need,
Mary,
we need to
is
get
it-
back to the Brown Act, and this should be an agendized item.
Oh, okay, that's cool. Is there some minutes from when the meetings that she's talking about that, where I could see what you all have talked about?
Would have
Or
been
is
like
there something
October, September? No, it would have been further back than
Further
that.
back than that.
Further back than that, when we had the Nexus.
So I would have to look through and see where we are with minutes.
for my little pea brain? It helps if there's things I
Are you
can.
looking specifically for the training?
Well, I'm just curious. You said that Chairman Bennett just said that they've spent a lot of time trying to get a timeline for things to, parks things. So I guess I would be curious to just, if I have that, then I don't have to stand up here and talk to y'all. But anyway, thank you.
All right, I have some stuff that I'll give you on what we're working on. Any more public comment? Closing public comment. Discussion action items, presentation on tobacco, litter, and parks. Michelle Appolinic? Okay, Amador County Health Department.
Thank you so much. Thank you, Chairman Bennett and the Parks Commission for having me here today. I'm really excited. I am Michelle Opolenic with Tobacco Reduction of Amador County. We are a program of the Public Health Department here in Amador, and today I want to just briefly touch on our program a little bit, talk also about kind of some of the tobacco use trends, and some of the work that we do to support jurisdictions in implementing smoke-free policies. But most importantly, I'm excited to share some information on some litter observations we've done in your parks, specifically relating to tobacco litter. So, tobacco reduction of Amador County, you can go to the next slide if you want, Mary. Thank you to Mary for putting my slides together as well. Tobacco reduction of Amador County is aimed at reducing youth access to tobacco products. It's aimed at also countering pro-tobacco influences like marketing and retail placement. We also try to improve cessation access to those who want to quit tobacco products. But the topic that's near and dear to my heart is reducing secondhand smoke exposure, particularly in our recreation areas. So in the United States, over many decades, cigarette use and tobacco use has declined steadily. Average tobacco rate among U.S. adults is about 15%. And on a quick aside, and something I cover in my community presentations, there are certain populations, though, we can't forget, within our community that have actually quite high tobacco rates still. And I talk a lot about that when I do my community presentations. Something else, though, is youth vaping. That's really threatening to erase a lot of the progress that we've made in our communities nationwide. In fact, the National Youth Tobacco Survey indicates that over 25% of high school students report current use of e-cigarettes. So it's really threatening to kind of erase this trend and this progress that we in the public health world have gained. So, and the Surgeon General has even gone so far as to declare youth vaping an epidemic. I did bring some e-cigarette fact cards I can leave here. You're welcome to those. So, tobacco use, and it's probably not new to any of you here, tobacco use is a leading cause of preventable death in the United States. It kills more than 480,000 Americans each year. Secondhand smoke kills 41,000 adults, non-smoking adults each year, as well as 400 infants every year in the United States. So, as a brief history, the state statute, so statewide, no tobacco use is allowed within 25 feet of a actual play structure or sandbox. It's also not allowed within 250 feet of any youth sporting event that's actively ongoing. We at Tobacco Reduction Amador work with jurisdictions to try to support them if they're interested in implementing smoke-free park ordinances. City of Jackson passed their tobacco-free ordinance in 2015, and you, the City of Ione, passed one in 2018. in December. And smoking by definition here includes e-cigarettes, which is really a common trend now to not forget e-cigarettes in those ordinances, and you all have that. It covers all current and future parks here in Ione. So cities of Jackson and Ione are among 400 municipalities statewide that have gone beyond the state statute and tightened restrictions on tobacco use in the park. So we in tobacco reduction support jurisdictions like yours by doing a lot of community outreach. I talk to anyone who will listen, Rotary clubs, Girl Scouts, you name it. We talk to anyone we can about the benefits of smoke-free parks, trying to build support for existing ordinances and future ordinances. We also do a press release, and you can go to the next, there's perfect. We do thank you ads for cities that pass, and we just ran one for you all back in September, thanking the city of Ione for going smoke-free in their parks. And we also purchase signs for jurisdictions, and I think we have some pictures of signs as well. We purchased 18 signs for the city of Ione to use throughout their parks. I know my understanding is 8 have been installed to date. And we also do litter observations, and that's what I wanted to share with you today. Per our project requirements, we do litter observations every 2 years. Tobacco litter is what we're counting, 2014, 16, and 18, including the parks countywide, but also including the parks in Ione. The goal, the state would like to see us see a reduction in 30% tobacco litter following an ordinance implementation. That's really hard to quantify. These litter observations are truly snapshots in time. They're truly us showing up on a certain day, and it's hard to know how to quantify it and seeing that reduction. But there are useful information that can be gained from those observations, and I'll get to that in a minute. So we performed a special observation for Ione in October, kind of off year, just kind of out of our interest to see. We have signs were starting to go up, kind of getting to feel. I'm still fairly new to the tobacco program, so it was a great opportunity for me to see your parks and to kind of see what's happening out there. So I made some tables. So this is a table, and I think you have it in your packet. I did a table for all the parks, but for the purpose of the slide not being too crowded, I did the 5 I call non-Howard Park parks, your small parks. What we learned overall from the observations in October was that I only saw combustible waste, so cigarette butts, little cigars, wrappers. I did not see any e-cigarette waste. For the 5 smaller parks, what tobacco litter I observed was pretty minimal. I think the news was really good. What I found, though, when I did find any cigarette butts, it was associated, in my not expert opinion, but associated with parking, curbsides, the bus stop, or a shared parking lot. For example, the train park had some pretty heavy litter, but that's a lot that's shared with a lot of activities. I couldn't sort of say it was a park. So I thought it was pretty darn good news for your smaller park. So Howard Park, and I made a pie graph for that one. Howard Park was a little bit different. We did find some areas of heavy litter, and you'll see on the pie graph that the area around Evelyn Bishop Hall, the parking lot, and some of the patios and foyers, the skate park, and the associated facilities like the bathroom and parking lot, and the playground towards the front of the park, and what I guess you would call your main playground area with that small parking lot for it. Those all had some heavy litter still. I would like to note, though, that the soccer fields, the trails, and the baseball fields, which really cover quite a large area of Howard Park, were very light in litter. Again, I had a hard time finding any tobacco butts in those soccer fields, which I thought was very interesting. And we will do another official litter count in the summer-fall 2020 for all your parks again. So how can this information be helpful? I think, hopefully, for you all as experts in your own parks, in your own community, there's some tools out of this that I'm not even thinking of. But for me, my thought was these observations help in placing signs. So you all still have some signs to place. I'm hoping this helps John and his staff to decide where we may need more signs, where we need to maybe relocate a sign. I just think it's a great tool for sign placement. And second of all, reinforces my job. It tells me that we need to still be out in the community. It's not enough to say, yay, Ione, you're done, you passed your ordinance, we're happy. It's, hey, I need to continue doing what I'm doing, talking to all at community events, talking to play groups, building support and understanding of those rules so that that word spreads within your community and kind of that culture change. I will say, as a quick aside, when I was doing the observations, there were people at the parks, and I had not one negative comment. Everyone was thankful. Everyone was really excited. These were moms, grandmas, parents with their children, and they were quite happy to know the ordinance existed. They loved the signs. In fact, they wanted more signs if they could, that kind of a thing. So the feedback was really positive. I can just say, very anecdotal, but I thought I'd just share that with you. So in conclusion, smoke-free parks really do benefit all of us. They protect us all from secondhand smoke. Tobacco litter is not only unsightly, it's very toxic to children, to wildlife, and to pets. Nicotine is a really awful neurotoxin and reduces wildfire risk. And I'll also say that there's growing evidence that parks and access to them has there's scientific data to show that it improves the health of a community. Lower cardiovascular disease, lower obesity, improved mental health outcomes. There's been some amazing studies. So to me, that just fits perfect with the smoke-free parks ordinance. So I mostly am here to say thank you, and I really appreciate my relationship with the city, and it's been really fun working with John and learning from all you all, because when I'm out talking to other communities, it's really great to learn what are the pitfalls, what are the good and the bad, and how I can help support you better. So are there any questions?
You know the regulation from schools, how far does cigarette smoking have to be from a school? That's my own question.
I think it's 20 or 30 feet from any entryways or school park. I think school grounds. And I would be, what I would be thrilled to do is gather that data and send it to you. But definitely not on campus.
The answer of that, because we have someone at ours that just walks out a gate.
Yeah.
All the kids see it, and I hate it.
I will get you
for years.
I will get you the exact data on that and the rules for schools.
Okay. Just curious.
They definitely should not be on campuses.
Well, it's not on campus,
Yeah.
but
Is that little gate right there? About
you know the little gate right there? That's where she sits and smokes, and it's like, really?
The principal used to go there and smoke.
I will get you that exact, what the regulations say, for sure.
Okay,
I'd be
and then
thrilled.
with our ordinance, do we have a penalty? Like if say at the skate park, it looks like probably our heaviest use. If a police officer went up there, do we have a penalty for somebody smoking?
Yes,
Is it just ejection from the park?
no, I think there's a penalty, but I'd have to look it up.
Okay, I just curiosity if we had a,
We're hoping it'll start to self-enforce to some extent, but I think, I think there's going to be certain areas that are going to be tough.
yeah.
But the sign's up. That's the sign. Actually, since the litter observations were done, I should know we have the new sign at the skate park now. So
Yeah, it's not that in there.
we'll see. But I know when I was there doing the observations, there was just, I would say, some adults with small children watching their small children use the skate park. So definitely a mixed community. So I think there's going to be growing awareness and support, I hope. So,
Yeah.
yeah. Well, thank you again. I appreciate it.
At the skate park, that was mostly cigarettes and cigars, not so much vaping.
I didn't see any vape. Now, there's a new trend, and I'll, again, let me know if I'm running out of time, but there is a new trend towards these disposable vapes that are, but a lot of the products you refill. And so I'm guessing if you're a kid and it's expensive, you're probably not dropping them too much. I have heard stories of schools, though, with quite a bit of litter. So I was shocked not to see at least a pod or something, but the popularity is growing on these disposable pods that they just use and drop. So I would be interested to see when we go out in the fall if we see any others. But I was surprised. Oh boy, I walked every step of that skate park and I did not see any, just combustible.
And on the restriction for tobacco use, does that cover smokeless tobacco as well? Chewing tobacco?
Because it's part of our it's part
So
of
it's
our
just
ordinance.
tobacco, period. Okay.
Do you actually go to the schools and kind of walk around and conduct a little study to see what you find close to the schools?
That would be fun to do. We are funding, the schools have their own tobacco money, so we all get a piece of the same tax pie, but we are actually getting ready to have a series of parent meetings, education meetings at all the school sites, including one evening one for junior high and at high school. So we're just fresh and building a good relationship with the group. Nexus Youth and Family gets some of that, what they call 2P money, tobacco education money, and we have a really great relationship with the coordinator with the school district now, so I'm excited. So that's a great question. I would think that would be a really fun thing to do. And as a high school parent, I'm sure there's a reason I could also wander to the parking lot and look. But I've heard stories of certain high schools in the Bay Area having quite a amount of litter, and them quantifying certain neighborhoods by socioeconomic neighborhoods, different types of litter. So there are studies out there, but I don't know, we've never done it local, but I would be thrilled.
Especially with the vaping, the way it seems to be so popular amongst
Yes.
the high schoolers and young adults.
It'd be interesting to see if there is some of that vape litter, because they're sure doing it there.
Oh, I know.
Yeah, that might be a fun
I've actually
project.
seen kids
I know,
kind of hiding in the parking lot.
I know.
I was just at Mel's the other day, and sure enough, they were just kids.
I know, they're so young. So that's why we're aiming to do our education, starting at 6th grade and up to parents, to try to say, hey, this is what the products look like, this is what to be aware of. They're not healthy, they're not good alternatives to any, try to help. So I think we're just kind of in that growing
You're just
relationship with
catching
the
it,
schools,
yeah.
and I'm excited. So that might be a fun project. And maybe something I can work on the service groups to do for us on
That's a
site.
good
So
idea, actually.
that's a great one. So I will get you some data on school distances, and I will also make a note about maybe some litter observations at the schools. Great. I learned as much from these presentations as you guys learned from me. So thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Any public comments? Okay, number 2's been straight. So recommendation on skate park sign dedication. Well, Dan's not here, so I feel,
Where are we at on that? I thought it was just,
my opinion on it is nobody has asked for it, and it's always been the Ione skate park, and I feel like a lot of people did contribute to it. I
oh yeah, I'm totally against the proposition that we.
I just don't see,
My understanding is one of the recommendations from Janice and Sharon Long was to be dedicated to the youth of Ione.
Yeah, I remember that
I
too.
remember that.
Yeah.
okay. I don't know where we are on that. John?
Well, you can, A, either make a recommendation, B, decide not to make a recommendation, or C, table it and have discussion later.
I don't know, where are you guys on it?
The last I heard about it was about 2 meetings back when we talked about when the big push was on to name it after Margaret Dalton because she'd made the largest contribution.
No, she hadn't made the largest contribution.
Well, the
That's
She made the first
something about
independent.
the
First
first.
independent, the largest contribution other than that came from a grant, which is
Yeah.
something entirely
Yeah, but
different.
there's,
It's not a contribution.
but there's still a lot of people that worked hard to get those grants and whatnot too, other than,
Sure.
so I move that we table it until next meeting and look into it.
I agree with the youth of Ione, and I think that was the purpose behind Margaret's Dalton contribution and all the other contributions and efforts. That's who they wanted it to go to, and I don't see a problem with the youth of Ione, but we can table till the next meeting.
Well, if you
or-
don't want to table, if you want to recommend that, I'll go with that too. I'll withdraw my motion.
I like that. Goal, the youth.
Yeah, I mean, I just think the youth of Ione is a great dedication, and yeah, I really would believe that Margaret Dalton, Dennis Dalton, all of that's mainly what they were going for.
Okay.
You know, just my thoughts. So, anyone can make a recommendation, or
Why don't you make a motion?
I make a motion.
Is there public comment?
Yep. Yes. Sorry, Lori. Yes.
I just want, are you guys talking about?
Public comment. Sorry.
Are we talking about the name of it or who you're going to dedicate?
It's a
the
dedication
name
to.
So what did you name it?
So it's just always been the Ione Skate Park.
I just didn't know if there was an actual name. Last I heard was.
So
what Ron said.
was a question too. Is he naming the park? Did he want to name the park the Mount Margaret Dalton or do a dedication to her? I don't recall actually. I'd have to go look in my notes. Stacy, do you recall?
What I remember is you guys, from what I read, is you guys didn't want Margaret on there, nothing against her, it was just, it's not what the
we had a
purpose
lot.
of it was.
Well, and I'm not even sure the family would want that either.
Right,
And
that came up,
I think-
they never even asked the family if they even wanted on there, sometimes they don't want.
Yeah, I think that's where now that I'm recalling, I think that's where the conversation went and they were supposed to get
Someone was
back to
supposed
us.
talk to someone that tried.
And we've gotten nothing back
Right.
at this point.
Maybe we should table it then and make sure before we.
because if it's not a naming but a dedication, why couldn't we just put a dedication to all of those that supported it and list the people that helped? I mean, if it's a dedication and not a naming. So that's my
Do we
confusion.
actually have a list of everybody that helped? Because I'd hate to see somebody left off of it.
Yeah, that's,
The problem with that.
yeah,
You got
I
a lot
don't
of
think
people
that.
now.
Yeah.
might have an idea for you.
Sharon would know.
How to phrase something.
Yeah,
Ione Park dedicated to the kids and whoever supported it, whatever.
I'll talk to Sharon.
She might have an idea for
Okay, I would like to make a motion to table this until our next meeting, and I will speak with Sharon and Janice, who were more instrumental in creating that, along with input more from Dan, who put it on there. I would hate to do it without him even knowing what we were.
That's the commission's prerogative.
Okay. Is anyone,
A second.
okay, all in favor?
Aye.
All right, let's do that. Let's do that. All right, number 4, tennis basketball court update.
Okay, and
Yeah,
my stuff over here. And I am going to pull this out a little bit.
Oh, it does come out.
Yeah.
Nice.
So. Is there anything on the? Yep. Okay, I'll just tell you when to. Okay, so I had the opportunity to meet with a representative from All Sports America to discuss the construction of the tennis and basketball courts at Howard Park. And in 1996, Howard Park Master Plan map, which is sitting over there, had the tennis courts located to the south of Evelyn Bishop Hall and to the east of the Carnival area. And the proposed footprint for the facility that we'd be looking at would be about 110 by 120. I did get some preliminary budget estimates or construction cost estimates from All Sports. They just came in this evening. It was like $258,000. I think we have a budget of about $260,000. So we were pretty close on that. I still need to kind of go through it all. All Sports America is a state contractor, and it is listed with the National Joint Purchasing Authority. The city of Ione is a member of that group, so the city could technically hire this firm without having to go through an RFP process, and that would allow us to move forward. We'd get the state pricing on moving this project forward. As staff looked at the approval process for this, we found that the mitigation negative declaration that was done for improvements to Howard Park in November of 2009, however, the tennis courts and the basketball courts were not included in the list of proposed activities or improvements for the park covered under the the mitigated negative declaration. We believe that's an error. We truly do. Like I said, in 1996, it's shown on the map there. In the 2005 Nexus study, the basketball courts and the tennis courts are listed as approved activities. In the 2010 mitigated declaration, it was omitted. There are other things that were included, but those two items weren't included in the proposed projects. We want to go back to the Planning Commission and add those so that what we've done it covers those projects.
So they're in the nexus, but they're not in the mitigation funding.
Yeah, they're not in that step process. And what I don't want to do is spend another $20,000-$30,000 doing a CEQA negative declaration update on that. That, like I said, the project has been since 1996 been a part of the parks plan. I just think it was an oversight. It just didn't get caught when they did the 2010 update.
I know, I'm trying to think back on that period of time.
But so you can go back to the planning commission, they can add that without.
Yeah, I have April's our planner, she's looking at that process, but like I said, everything indicates that was part of the improvements to that park. Why it was missed, I can't answer, but I truly do believe it was an oversight.
tend to agree with you. I don't know why they would just say, oh, no basketball, no.
Yeah.
Like, I just don't see
Yeah,
why they would do that. It doesn't make sense.
And like I said, that's the only conclusion that I can come up with, is it was an oversight.
And with the number of people, I have not always wanted, I want tennis courts, not basketball courts. So many people come in here though, and they ask for those items. It's overwhelming in our community. Just even Rudy's in here asking for them, so yeah.
So as part of also the process, as we look at the site, and again, what we have is, I've gone out with the contractor. Like I said, it's about 110 by 120. Do have part of it with string on there. If you go out there to look around, also look for the stakes with the blue tops on them. That'll give you the footprint. And I will say, as we walked out there, the footprint is a little bigger than what I thought. Mary, you want to click to the next? So as we look at this, one of the things that occurred to me is we're also going to need a land use process, because there's probably about 30 trees that will need to be taken out as well. So there's a land use process. There may be some mitigation related to that. The trees that need to go aren't what I will call the healthiest of species, and it is what it is. But like I said, that'll be part of a land use process as well as this project moves forward.
How far is this from the from Evelyn Bishop, from like the pits, the horseshoe pits? Because it seems like it's over in that area, right?
Yeah,
Okay.
It's almost, where the carnival area is? It's almost straight across from that. You have the carnival area, you have the road, and then you're up into this grass area with the trees there. It's in there.
Okay.
And it goes...
Parking wouldn't be an issue because you have Evelyn Bishop parking.
You have
Drive
Evelyn
right
Bishop
into.
parking, yeah.
Okay.
Yeah, so like I said, that's kind of where we want it. We also wanted to keep it somewhat up front, simply because we want to avoid potential vandalism issues. So the closer up front, the more visible it is, the better it is to see what's going on.
Are the tennis courts, forgive me, I missed the meeting where they actually were going to do this, but are they, could they be used for tournaments and stuff? Are they, what's the word? Regulation?
Oh, yes.
Okay. And how many courts?
2 courts,
2 courts in their regulation.
yes.
And then how does the basketball fit on that?
So you have the tennis courts going one way and the basketball courts go the other.
Okay.
So the net kind of divides the basketball courts.
Okay.
So like half court size.
Yeah, something. I mean, the basketball courts aren't regulation in any way, shape, or form. The tennis courts are.
Yeah, they're just added to play.
Right.
Okay. Okay.
You want to play pickleball?
It can be striped for pickleball too.
Actually, I think our senior community would appreciate that. Oh, I'm looking at you. Okay.
I will just say, in a best case scenario, we'd probably be looking at being able to do some tree removal and remove the vegetation and grind the stumps probably before Ione homecoming, and then after Ione homecoming, the construction in terms of the forming would take place. Figure about 4 to 6 weeks after that. So, I mean, best case scenario, we're probably looking at mid-July.
Okay. And you think pricing-wise that this, because it's state pricing, it's going to be better than anything we put out? I don't know the difference.
I didn't say that. I said that's one of the options. I still sit there and go, I'm not sure that's our best pricing. I really
That doesn't leave much of a margin for.
No, it doesn't, and, I haven't seen how they've established their pricing. I mean, it usually works on the basis with these agencies like this, what is your budget?
Yeah.
And then they can usually fit into that budget. That doesn't mean you get the best price.
So what's our process at this point if we decided to put it out to bid? How long do we have to give people to start that, to get back to us?
You'd probably be looking at a month and a half.
Because I know when I did research on it, there were different ways to build these tennis courts and basketball courts. Some of them were like interlocking, floating, that weren't necessarily all concrete, that seemed a little bit cheaper, but I don't know anything about the maintenance on them versus a concrete slab. You know what I mean? They're very different ways of creating.
Right. And again, like I said, I've worked with one company.
Yeah.
There are other companies out there that I'd want to talk to as well. Like I said, I'm just kind of interested in getting, a feel for what they view in terms of their pricing. But like I said, in terms of the numbers they quoted, I'm not necessarily sure that's our best price.
Okay.
But again, just to kind of update you in terms of what's happening,
I will give you the gentleman that spoke to me when we were first redoing the Oak Ridge parks.
okay?
He was very prompt, got back to me. They have a system that does tennis courts and basketball courts, and it's a little bit different than just your concrete slab.
Okay.
So I will give you his info, and
Okay.
if you'd like to, so you can compare.
Oh yeah, definitely.
And he was like I think it was like $40,000 to do a half court up there. But
Yeah.
it's not in the middle of Howard Park in 110 by 120.
Right. So, but like I said, I mean, here's the starting point. This is some
Okay.
preliminary information. There's still more work to do.
Okay. And now I have put my other stuff away. Okay, tennis ball. Public comments.
Just a couple of quick questions. Are they going to be lighted at night?
There's going to be conduit run to them. We won't necessarily do the lighting because technically the park still closes at night.
So hopefully, so you can't see if any shenanigans go on at night.
Well,
Because you keep lights on at EB Hall, right?
There's lights on at EB Hall.
So it
but-
would be just whatever glow.
Right.
Yeah.
But like I said, in terms of lights for playing,
Yeah.
not at this time.
Yeah,
But
that
again,
makes
if you're
sense.
gonna
I see.
build it, run the conduit.
Yeah.
We'll have the option for expansion later down the road for the
Well, if the
lighting.
conduit's there,
Yeah.
you would, yeah. So to get to that, I'm having a pretty good faith, Angela, you would know, it's pay to play in Jackson. Are we going to be pay to play?
It's not paid to play.
I was told that it was.
I
Just-
played there all the time. You just call the city of Jackson and they give you the code. to get
Oh,
in.
maybe, I'm sorry, thank you.
Yeah, they actually have a lock on them, and you have to call
Yeah,
the
it's not
city
just
and let them
free.
know. Now, they don't
They
change
give
the
you a
code
code.
ever, so if you remember it, you don't always have to let everyone know. So I've never really understood
Why it's there.
why it's there, because anyone just keeps that code,
You just keep the knuckles.
and then, I think it is a deterrent for someone who doesn't know to call the city if they really just want to play. But yeah, they have it all gated and locked off, and they have a combination lock that I think they change it like every 4 months or something.
I like a quarter to pay.
Yeah.
Because you have to, like in Santa Cruz, you have to pay.
Yeah, Jackson does not have to pay, but yeah,
Well,
sure.
I mean, it helps you get your lights sooner, you know,
How-
if
how
it's just
much,
nominal.
Lori?
Pardon?
Do you know how much?
No, I misunderstood.
Oh.
I remembered it wrong. It is, you're right, it's code to play, but I know in Santa Cruz.
But that's what I was asking.
I've got a picture probably from what I took, 5 years ago.
Oh.
And would have showed you guys when I was there.
Okay.
It'd be easy enough to find out. And then, is it just strictly first come, first served? And can they play as long as they want? Is there some
That's how
sort of
Jackson
rules?
is.
I don't-
Except, well, I do think that some of the coaches reserve the tennis courts for practice because there's some tennis teams, and they might call the city and reserve just like baseball or anybody else does. And I don't know, I might charge for those seasons. I know if I had to even borrow the school to do soccer practice, I had to pay a seasonal fee. So,
The reason I bring it up is because if nobody knows kind of how it works, a lot of people think that it's spontaneously, and they're not gonna necessarily know, I gotta go call the city to see if it's taken or not. It has happened off and on at the arena forever.
I
That
believe,
you load up your horses, you come over and find out, because.
That
you don't
will
stop
happen.
and go to your,
yeah.
Well, this is a little bit easier, but I just wondered how it's gonna work. I don't.
Well, I just see kids playing there and this tennis coach comes in and says, oh, I have the courts for how many hours or, yeah. But, so, any more public comment? No? Commission?
Should we start hashing out the do's and don'ts then, and if we're gonna charge anything, should we kind of start talking about that?
Well, let's see if we can get it built first and then I do
Yeah.
that. Just-
I mean, we can start thinking about it and getting ideas.
Well, yeah, just kind of
Everybody, but I think
maybe
right now we're at a
next
point
fall.
where that's putting the cart way before the horse.
Well, yes, but eventually, like maybe next fall, maybe we can,
Yeah, I agree with you on that, yeah.
There's always maintenance, and that, you gotta have employees to do that.
That was a question that I was thinking, is there water that will be at those courts?
Yes, we'll need to run water to that.
Yeah, only because that's how the city of Jackson does it. They have drains like on the outside and then they clean the courts that way.
You also want drinking fountains by there.
Okay. Okay, moving on to city manager updates.
Yeah, we kind of covered, we're still waiting to hear on the per capita grant from the state. We expect to receive about $200,000 from the program. Will be a 20% match requirement. And again, we'll be looking at using the funds for Depot Park. Work continues on the Nexus study. The progress is slow. Again, fire department, getting that information and, and costs and need, that's been dragging. This commission will also need to start looking and having discussions as to traffic flow in Howard Park. As more and more events keep going, we need to really start hashing out how we want traffic to flow, so that everybody can use it and everybody, traveling safe. Finally, had the opportunity to tour the new Elk Grove Community Center and their aquatics facility.
Yeah.
Wow.
Yeah.
Okay, that's all I can say is wow.
I still want that land, John. I want to get it donated by your boss. Doesn't Bunce own that land by JTS? You know where that house is, the little house? You know where
The
the
sales pavilion?
sales pavilion is, all those lots next to it? I was told Bunce owns them.
Good luck.
I know.
It's the other side that's commercial.
It's the other side that's commercial, that's residential, I know.
Residential on
But I want an aquatic center there.
I'll give you his address.
I'll go see him.
Yeah,
It's gotta be a ROI on
the Elk Grove Aquatic Center was about $42 million, and it has 3 pools. It has splash fountains. It has anything that you could want. Like I said, I walked through there and it was like, oh, take a photograph so I can steal ideas.
It has indoor-outdoor pools, right? Both?
Yeah, I think so.
Yeah, I think it has both. Just like the Folsom Aquatics, a lot of them do, yeah.
Yeah, there's a competition pool, there's a regular swim pool, there's a lazy river, there's concession stands, like I said, it just phenomenal.
Have you been to the Folsom Aquatic Center yet?
No.
You should visit.
Okay.
It's just a neat place and we all spend a lot of money there. Like, we leave here and all our money goes to Folsom because it's like $20 a kid when you go. And it's got all the blow-ups and the kids get extra wristbands for those. They have the snack shack. They have like birthday parties there. And it's, I don't know, it's more.
It's just free and open?
No, $20 a kid. That's what I just said.
So why would we even start anything in the future that's not at least a little bit of?
Well, the most pools you have to pay to go to, even ours, just the cost of
For everything.
running them.
Put in a fancy tennis court, what's 50 cents? They can buy chips from City Hall, passes and stuff. Just saying, that's how you get stuff done. You don't have any other way. But Minden has a aquatic center that's been there forever. Have you ever called? That's a little bitty place or used to be.
Yeah, it's tiny.
Anybody
Minden's
ever
is tiny.
called there to find out how they got there?
I'll be there this weekend. Maybe I'll chat with them.
Go find out.
Okay. Any questions from the commission on city manager updates? Public comment on city manager updates,
Any public comments on that?
even though it's number 5? Okay. Okay, commission members for future items. Well, I would like an update on the Nexus study the next time, just to
Okay.
see where they are, if they've passed the fireman side of it.
We should probably have some conversation related to traffic flow.
Yeah, but I want to know something about the use of the baseball fields too. How come little girls can't play on the baseball fields?
This has been hashed out for years.
Well,
When
I want to know why.
When they built the parks, they asked softball to join in and spend some money to help them do it, and they said no. Softball said straight out no. And so they never helped them do it. And that was where the whole conflict began. But that was with Finch years ago, and it's just a changing of the mounds, things like that. They're not the same. Yeah. Anyway.
Still don't know what's going on there because
Well, and we have a contract with Little League.
that's what I say.
Yeah.
And I don't know why that contract was ever signed.
It was signed because they built the parks. That's why it was signed. It was.
Needs to be an agenda item.
Agenda item.
Well, that's what I
Okay.
say, I want it on the agenda.
Baseball. Actually, we should look at our updates on contracts because
Okay.
we're coming into them. We're coming into our soccer and our baseball.
Okay.
Yeah. Okay. Anything? Well, I might do that another time. I'll email you because I have
Okay.
some questions that I'm not sure if it needs to be an agenda item or if we should discuss it.
Okay.
Anyone move to adjourn tonight's meeting?
Yeah, I'll make that motion.
I'll second.
All in favor?
Aye.
Aye.